Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Smash or Pass with JayBee,
Aloha!
me Milly, and of course SMASH.
Aloha!
So in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at Aloha Scooby Doo. So for those of you that are new to the show, we have getting quite a back catalogue now of previous episodes where we have been looking at Scooby Doo movies a bit in depth, analysing them, and ultimately deciding whether they have a smash or pass status. So for those of you that haven't seen Aloha Scooby Doo for a while, I was certainly one of those people. Kind of like a quick little recap, really. So Mystery Inc. end up in Hawaii for a big kind of surfing competition. They're there because Daphne's been invited to kind of exhibit her like fashion sense and like design outfits and all this kind of thing, and that's how they end up there. And of course, as always, we have the monster of why am I getting this wrong today? We have the monster of the Wiki Tiki and all their kind of mini tikis as well, who are kind of taking over the competition. So of course they want to find out who's behind that and what's been going on at the surfing contest. So that was a pretty bad synopsis for me for a change. That wasn't great. So I'm quite new to this movie, so I'm like throwing this to JayBee straight away.
So that's got that kind of, it doesn't worry me, but it's so interesting to find out where people kind of peaked with their interest and where people dropped off, because I think 2 episodes or so, especially you and I, Millie, discussed that we have the kind of same trend. We kind of were brought up with the same ones and fell off about the same time, whereas this one, I think this may be my second or third most viewed. And again, it's such summer vibes, so I've got very fond memories of Aloha Scooby Doo. In fact, I would say, I don't know, it may have been my go-to one when I was growing up. It may have been my go-to one. Maybe not my favourite, but definitely it was always there when I went on holiday. I always had the DVD, so I like this one just from nostalgia, but let's just see if the rest of the review may change my mind. What was your background with this movie, Smash?
So I kind of have a funny story with this one. And it's actually, okay, part of it is more recent, but so I remember this one quite a bit because, I mean, it came out the year after Scooby Doo 2, but the trailer I remember seeing, like, on some sort of other Scooby Doo VHS or DVD, like, super early. Like, I just remember, like, watching it for so long, and I'm like, where is this movie? Like, why am I seeing this so early? And maybe it was just my kid's mind, being like, it's so far away until that movie comes out, when really it wasn't. But so I remember seeing the trailer for this for so long, and then randomly one day, one of my siblings had the TV on and was watching it on like Cartoon Network, and I was like, it's out? I was like, what? I forgot about this because it took so long for it to come out since I saw the trailer. And so then I didn't really watch it at that moment because it's, was in the middle of it. I was like, well, I don't know what's going on now. So I actually didn't watch this one for quite a while. Not until it started to kind of do reruns on Cartoon Network, and I recorded it on a VHS and was able to watch it then. And then so then I didn't really own it for a super long time. I made a friend not too long after he moved into my neighborhood, and he randomly had it on DVD, and I was super jealous because it was one I didn't have, and naughty us, but he was like, oh, I'll have my dad just burn you a copy of it. So I had a burn copy for a while, but there was a part of the movie where his DVD would skip or whatever, so it did the same thing on mine, so I was like, I can't watch it. I was like, still didn't help me. And so anyway, fast forward a few years later, my parents were kind of I think it was for my birthday or something, they're like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, hey, I want to fill in some of these gaps in my Scooby movies, and Aloha Scooby Doo was one of them. So it came to be my birthday, whatever. My parents were like, we couldn't find a whole lot of them and whatever, so they gave me some birthday money to go see if I could find them, like when we go shopping, whatever. And I believe I found it at Barnes & Noble, actually, which is a bookstore here. Random. So I finally got it. I was like, hey, we're good. We're dandy. Awesome. So then, fast forward last year. So last year, I decided randomly, I'm going to watch Aloha Scooby Doo. So I'm watching it. I'm doing my thing. This is the original DVD that I had. And it all of a sudden gets to a point in the movie and just freezes and skips to the end of the movie. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I was like, I know the movie doesn't do that. I've seen it a handful of times at this point. So I tried every DVD player, every Blu-ray player in my house and was like, is it the disc? Is it the player? I was a little scared though because I had just gotten a new 4K Blu-ray player. So I was like, is my player already breaking? And I just got it. But it did it on every player I tried, same spot on the disc. So there was just no reviving it. There was no way, for whatever reason, there was just a part on the disc that just was somehow ruined. I don't know why. It's not scratched or anything. So, I cleaned it and everything. Nothing helped. So I was like, okay, I just gotta order a new one. Luckily, it's older now, so it's pretty cheap. $7 here or whatever. So I ordered a new one. It came. I was like, cool, dandy, awesome. Then, a few months later, I randomly get into these oh, I need this for my collection or whatever. So I don't know if we brought it up with the last episode, but the Loch Ness Monster DVD originally came in a green case, whereas Aloha Scooby Doo originally came in an orange case. And I didn't get the orange case originally because I got it so late after the movie came out. But I remember my friend, who I'm still friends with today, he gave me a handful of his Scooby DVDs as he was cleaning out and whatever, and he had the orange case for Aloha Scooby Doo, but he didn't have the disc, so he didn't want to give it to me because he's like, oh, no point. But I, inside was like, I will still take it, the orange case. So I messaged him. I was like, hey, do you still have this? I was like, so random, whatever. Anyway, he checked. He went through his house and whatever. He's like, I don't know what happened to it. I thought I gave it to you. And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. So I was crazy, went on eBay, found a orange case one, and ordered it. It was pretty cheap. And I was like, okay, cool. I have the orange case now. But now I have 3 DVDs of this movie. Well, then this is one that re-released later on Blu-ray. So a couple months later, I found it on Blu-ray on eBay for a decent price because this one is really hard to find on Blu-ray, so they'll hike up the price. So it came, and it has a Blu-ray and DVD copy. So in the end, I somehow have 5 copies of this movie. That's my whole story.
I mean, I would quite like to find this on Blu-ray. I think that would be quite good, especially that Hawaii vibe. It's so weird though. I thought it was gonna culminate into a story about haunted DVDs, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get freaked out.
Nope, I'm just a crazy nut who likes to have the orange case, the green case, the yellow case of Scooby Doo too. And then I ended up getting every freak. I don't have a VHS copy. I shouldn't have thought of that, and I'm gonna look for one. But
was this around about the same time as I always get mixed up with timelines now and technology, because I guess YouTube was just starting to be a thing, so maybe someone had clipped someone. I don't know. 2005 this was, right?
Yes.
So did people still were using tapes then, weren't they?
It was starting to transition. I was trying to save this for next week's episode, but I'll say it again next week. The next movie is Scooby Doo and Where's My Mummy, and that was the last Scooby Doo movie to come out on VHS.
That
So.
was going to be my next question to you, as what was the last one. So yeah.
I mean, who knows? Like, trends come really weirdly. Like, we pre-ordered an album, totally unrelated, but we obviously have known that vinyl has been a thing that's come back into popularity recently, so a lot of the new modern albums are coming out as vinyl records. But legit, this one also came in like a tape variant, so it would just be interesting in like, you know, X amount of years, or like by the time, if they ever make like a Scoob 3 or something like that, if that gets released in the old tape format because it's for some reason come back on trend. I think
That would be
so
so
cool.
interesting.
Like, I would love to just get a collection of that.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did Aloha Scooby Doo come in a orange VHS tape? Like the DVD?
Yeah, maybe there's more than one to collect.
Oh, I'm getting like flashbacks now of like different variants of DVDs where if you stack them against each other, it makes a consistent picture. Oh, they should do that, you know? I've got those Doctor Who DVDs, like if you line them together, it makes a picture. Imagine if, like, for some anniversary of Scooby Doo, they re-released every single movie, but if you stack them all together, it would be one huge picture.
Oh, that would be so cool. You know what's okay? So I'm searching the VHS. So no, there's nothing special to the VHS, but I did find it on eBay. But this DVD, Aloha Scooby Doo, and a handful of other ones. So the original DVD came in like a full color design. Maybe I'll shoot you guys a picture of the two variants. But then the ones that you would like, if you were to order it off of Amazon or whatever today, you get a like outlined one and not a fully pictured one. It's interesting.
Oh, really? I'm just trying to check for the old... See, I cannot imagine that. It takes me back to such a long time ago. I only thought I had this on DVD, but thinking about that, like, Millie, you said that you're not really familiar with this. Are we to say that you didn't have this physically at all? It was just something you caught on TV occasionally?
Yeah, it was honestly most Scooby Doo movies. It was just what was playing on Boomerang that day. The only one that I really had a copy of was The Witch's Ghost, and that's because my brother bought it for me.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. But I guess moving on to the actual substance of the movie, it starts off nicely, to be honest. It reminds me of Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's that Hawaii vibe, but to me, this is... And again, you can say the same about Monster of Mexico to an extent, but I think what we've seen so far is they do a holiday movie, then a more kind of toned down movie, and obviously the next movie breaks that trend. But again, I think this is a really great summer film, and just, you know, when things are going into the heat wave here in the UK, I was fully vibing with this. Like, this is just amazing. I enjoyed this opening a lot.
So this opening is I had it pulled up. It was sung by a famous Hawaiian singer, Don Ho, actually.
I like that, and it does set up the vibe perfectly. The only thing that I could kind of identify that was a bit awkward was the animation on the dolphin is the only thing that has aged really badly. So you've got this beautiful landscape that would actually fly today if they weren't, you know, moving into CGI. Like, if there was still like hand-drawn or, you know, computer-generated animations, this would actually look good today. And then the kind of Minecraft dolphins come flying out, and it took me out of it. It was a bit of a contrast. And maybe it dragged on a bit too long, maybe a few seconds too long, but overall, I thought this was pretty good, and you could instantly tell what vibe it was going for.
Yeah, I quite liked it. And also, in the last episode, with the Loch Ness, Smash was talking about how the lyrics kind of matched what you were seeing on screen, and at one point it was singing about a bird flying, which is obviously the main visual, so it matched up again quite nicely.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, in terms of the credits, does anyone else have anything to say? Because again, I'm surprised that they didn't just go for an easier option. Like, we've seen good easy intros where it was, I think it was the vampire, where it was just waves, which was a great
Yeah.
but it was at the end of the day quite easy. Whereas this was like a full-on tour around this version of Hawaii that they'd created, and I just appreciated this a lot. It seems like they didn't rush this intro. It just did exactly what it was meant to do, and for that, I really like this. I'm set up for a good film.
I feel like it definitely set up the vibe for like Hawaii and stuff, and it is different, like you guys were saying. Like doesn't quite fit the spooky aesthetic of Scooby, but I think for where they're at, it fits.
Yeah, and we've spoken briefly in episodes where they've gone to Mexico, where they've gone to Scotland, and maybe the way that they treated culture was a bit dubious. Maybe this is more of a discussion for later. But just as like a side question, have any of us ever been to Hawaii? Because I know that I haven't.
No, I haven't.
Or do we
No,
know
I haven't
anyone?
personally. I know one of my friends actually went to school in Hawaii. She got back. Well, she had to come home last year because of COVID, but I know some people that have been to Hawaii, but I haven't been personally.
Okay, maybe that'll factor in a bit later on, because there were a few sequences that I was kind of like, maybe that's aged a bit poorly, maybe that wasn't the best way of going about things, but no, the intro is good, and again, it brings us straight into, do we call this one a cold open? I'd say it is, right?
Yeah, this would technically be referred to as a cold open. It's just kind of different because I believe this happens in the same day that we transition to the game.
Yeah, it like pans over, almost.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because usually we see the gang physically traveling there, but
Yep.
it's kind of cool that we're already just thrown straight into the story.
Yeah.
And just the start shows a very nice divide between the locals and the tourists. Like, there wasn't too much in
Yeah.
it, but instantly, because that's kind of the main conflict of the movie, it sets that up quite nicely.
I mean, we do get introduced to a few characters quite quickly. So there's Manu, Snooky, and Little Jim. What's your opinion on those three characters right from the start? This is kind of to both of you, so either one can.
I guess Smash can start, because I have a habit of talking more than I should.
No, you're good. I was never a fan of Manu. Like, even we won't get into it yet, but he just like always just seems so like everything's horrible. It's just the worst. I mean, I get it, his girlfriend was taken or whatever, but like he just like never had a good attitude, I felt like in the movie. His friend though, I thought was a lot of fun. I kind of wish we saw him a little more. I feel like he should have interacted with Scooby and Shaggy more, because I think he would have been a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
And then Snooky was just, I don't know, she was just kind of there. I never really got a good enough vibe for her, because she just wasn't in it enough, I feel like.
No, I agree with you on all those opinions. Like, I instantly think that Manu was maybe a bit arrogant, almost entitled, like you said. Nothing seemed good for them, and it just was taken for granted that they were the best right from the start without them really doing much. Snooky, I just kind of think faded into whatever plot Manu had, but like you said, Little Jim, I think, was right at the start. I was like, okay, this is the only character that I'm like kind of there with.
Yeah, they are such a vibe. They remind me of the foster father from Shazam, if anyone's seen that. Just such a likable presence. Like, I just love that so much. My only issue is that for all we've got the likable character within Little Jim, and obviously, you know, Manu and Snooky are doing their own thing, the whole conflict at the center of it, I think, possibly makes them inherently unlikable. So the whole thing is that they don't want the tourists, or I guess they call them mainlanders, to participate in the surfing contest because it's like a bad omen or something, which is fine, I guess, if they're like used to things being done a certain way. But it's like, that's quite a xenophobic notion, right? I don't think it's racist, but it's certainly a bit of a xenophobic notion that it should purely be for people from a certain place. I don't know. Maybe that's more normal there, but to me it's like I can't really get behind people that are trying to necessarily gatekeeper contest, and like are just showing
Yeah.
prejudice based on where people are from, and it's like, I don't know, even when the monster's unmasked, it's like it doesn't seem like there's going to be much of a winner at the end of this.
Yeah, right.
But from this scene, we also go to the Wiki Tikis and the minions attacking them, and they're actually like the Wiki Tiki is scary in this sequence. Like they're just lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
Like, that's nightmare fuel. If I saw that, I think more than any other monster that we've encountered, with maybe the exception of the zombies or the cat people, this is the one that would scare me the most.
Yeah, I certainly think that we're having a bit of a run of more intimidating villains at the minute. Like, I think the Loch Ness was done quite well. Maybe the Monster of Mexico was okay in certain scenes.
No.
So I feel like we're in a good era at the minute for kind of intimidating monsters.
The Monster of Mexico would be a really cool Build-A-Bear.
Okay, yeah. We're in this like era of Scooby Doo. So there's kind of two different terms that people refer to this era of Scooby movies. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So some people refer to these movies as the What's New Scooby Doo movies. And then some people refer to these as like the Legends Scooby Doo movies, so to speak. Not that the Wiki Tiki is necessarily a Hawaiian legend that at least I know of, but like within this group of movies, you know, we have the El Chupacabra, we have the Loch Ness Monster, we'll have an Egyptian one, we have the Abominable Snowman, and so it's like all these monsters that are pretty well known, you know, with folktale and whatever, and I think even in some movies, the like National Geographic even like sponsored these movies and whatever.
Oh wow. That's surprising. I'm trying to think of an outlier. Do you know when that kind of ends? Because I'm thinking Pirates Ahoy is quite out there, but if I'm not mistaken, does that not go into the Bermuda Triangle a bit? Maybe I'm just...
Yeah, that one goes in the
You're right,
Bermuda
then. It's
Triangle.
all
It
legends.
technically, I think it stops technically with the Goblin King, so after Chill Out Scooby Doo.
Yeah, see, Goblin King is one that I've heard decent things about. Well, I've heard mixed things about, but that's one that I've personally never seen before.
Oh, okay, that one's gonna be interesting.
Indeed. So I think you kind of covered all the opening scene there, JayBee, which is when we move on to see the gang, which, as you say, the introduction there is very different. It's not that they're on their way.
I guess just to travel back a bit, it kind of killed my vibe a bit when you've got these little mini tikis. They're kind of like doing their thing. They remind me very much of Gremlins, and they're wreaking havoc with the locals, the tourists. But then for some reason, all that this massive army manages to do is kidnap one person, and then
Yeah.
they stop because the people have gone into the water. Now, I don't want them to be indestructible by any means, but for a small island-based villain, having one of their weaknesses being water is actually kind of ridiculous.
When the main goal is to stop the surfing competition, which is in the water.
Like, all you'd needed to have done is put a little motor on some jet skis or something and have them wishing about.
But at the same time, when you watch the movie to the end, you know why they're stopped with one person.
Yeah, it does it very much does get revealed. But then does that imply that if you're not in on it, you could kick one of these mini tikis and it would go flying?
Yeah.
That would actually be kind of funny. I don't know why
Little Jim
didn't
tried, didn't he?
I don't know. I'd be scared of these things. They're not as intimidating as the main Wiki Tiki. They're pesky looking things. I don't think I'd go near them. I'd be scared. But yeah, the gang are already here, like you were saying, Millie, which is cool. And this is unintentional, but we see Fred in a, what is it called, a hang glider or a paraglider?
Yeah.
But this is the first time that I've looked at a non-classic Fred outfit and thought that wasn't bad. But I think purely for the fact that they have the the white shirt and the kind of blue aesthetic to it, but also because the straps from the harness were orange, and it actually blended quite nicely in that particular scene.
I mean, I'm glad you've mentioned the outfits because it was definitely on my radar of things to mention, because I really like how they translated it this time. Like, I always am interested when there's like a different climate or something, so they do have to try and translate the outfits. And I feel like this is one of the only movies where Shaggy actually gets some form of translation with the shorts and things. Because normally they'll do a new outfit for like Fred and Velma and Daphne, but Shaggy just wears the same thing every time. I really like the translation to the like surfing shorts thing.
Yeah, it is good, and maybe they do it briefly in the Legend of the Vampire, but it's for like a sequence, and then they go back to But more on that, it was not only fantastic to see Daphne and Velma playing like Pokemon Snap. That was a very.
I've got that written down as well.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, just go to the right, go to the left. But then that raises the question that in terms of Daphne fashion designing, was it literally just to go to Hawaii to photograph a hummingbird, and then that's all that she had to do? Because she doesn't really do anything else go har aloha throughout the entire film, apart from just, oh, these hummingbirds will look great on this new swimwear that I'm designing. And it's like, in this day and age, she could have just typed in hummingbird on Google Images, found like a non-copyright one, and job done. Like, so that's what I thought was a bit ridiculous, but again, not bad. And again, both their outfits are on point. Like, I'm definitely more of a Daphne fan than a Velma fan, but both of their outfits were translated really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love their outfits in this.
And something else that's translated that I want Smash's opinion on is the new mystery machine like dynamic for this.
Is this introduced now? I think it may be. They have, what is it? It's like an open tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Jeep-ish is what I always refer it to as. I thought, okay, I kind of have two different thoughts with this. Like, I like what they were doing, you know, but I wanted some sort of explanation of, like, is this Daphne's? Was there one just painted like that? Did they paint it? Like, how and why did they have it?
Yeah, it's meant to be a rental.
Okay, yeah. So it's a rental. So anyway, but then my other thing is, like, we saw in Legend of the Vampire and like Loch Ness Monster, and we'll see in other ones, they take the mystery machine almost everywhere they go. Why could they not take it to Hawaii?
Yeah, that's true. The only thing I can think of, and again, this makes no sense because we have seen it in similar circumstances, is possibly they'd get too warm in the thing if it wasn't open top, because obviously Hawaii is meant to be very warm, but like if it can deal with the desert, if it can deal with the desert, I'm pretty sure. I'm
wondering if it's because of the one scene where they're like driving out in the middle of nowhere, and you know, like Shaggy and Scooby have this little gag with this monk or this lizard and whatever. I'm wondering if it's like that specific scene. They were like, we have to have an open vehicle. Like,
yeah, and I think there's at one stage when there's 6 people in the mystery machine, so the gang and is it Manu just before they go missing, so maybe so that you can kind of get a more of a dynamic with all the cast there as well.
Yeah,
possibly, because it'd be a bit awkward if they were all just hunched together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my other question is, obviously we don't know what Daphne's role is in this, like if it's a job, an internship, I don't believe anyway, but does her having a job place it further on in the timeline? Like, I know that Smash is the timeline expert when it comes to these things. Like, where is Aloha Scooby Doo ranked on the timeline in terms of the community?
Yeah, that's what's interesting, because like, well, okay, so some people are, this one's kind of divided in half. Like, some people see What's New Scooby-Doo as them being adults at this point, and so like in these movies they're adults. But to me, there's just some like hints and winks in like What's New Scooby-Doo in the series that still say they're teenagers. They just, for whatever reason, aren't in school. And so to me, they're still, I would say they're kind of late teens here, I feel like. Maybe not, like 16 and whatever, but more so like 18 or something. But the fact that, yeah, she has this like job that she's in Hawaii for is really interesting. And I mean, I should go back and listen to exactly how she says it, but I'm wondering if it's some sort of internship, maybe?
Yeah, it comes across like that, I think.
It does seem though that she's maybe getting paid for it, or maybe it's on a commission basis, so it could be a paid internship, definitely. Although she'd have to have done pretty well to get like what I assume is travel expenses covered. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just good to get them in this setting, even if they've just used it as a reason to make that the case. Because even the connection, who is it? It's what's that? They played by Adam West. They're very funny.
Shoot, what is his name?
Mr. Moon? Professor Moon?
Mr. I have the cast up right here. I'm trying to find it. Jared Moon.
So they're a great presence. I actually didn't know that it was Adam West. It was because they did such a good job with the end credits, like the visuals there, that I was like, wait, Adam West. I was in Adam West. And then I went on IMDb and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Adam West. So yeah, I guess Daphne's job gets them to the new setting. It's a great cameo. So again,
speaking of the Goha Aloha guy, he reminded me of, the kind of Nessie obsessed guy in the last one, just driving around with his van and his souvenirs and all that kind of thing. Just be like, yeah, it's kind of like him.
Although I'd say more like a corporate foil, because whereas the Nessie guy was trying to save the Loch Ness Monster, I'd say this Batman guy is just trying to profit from the Wiki Tiki.
Yeah.
But again, I would just love it if they would do some more like maybe some press releases or pre-releases with these. Because could you imagine being able to buy one of those DVDs now? Like I think when I first got Avengers Infinity War, they attached a little Lego Groot to it. If you could have bought Aloha Scooby Doo back in the day and one of those little tiki charms was attached to it, oh, that would have been fantastic.
That would have been cool.
So there's something else that happens when they first kind of arrive that JayBee and I were discussing, is when Shaggy and Scooby see that food, I think it's called foil or something, and they're like lingering towards it. So we were saying it almost looks like in animated TV shows what would be referred to as like canteen slop. Like in the last one, they saw haggis and were like, that's disgusting.
I mean, if that's genuine Hawaiian cuisine, we are actually not meaning any offense by that. It's just the way it's animated.
It just looks grey and it just doesn't look like something that you'd
canteen
eat.
Slop, I love that.
It is what you refer to it as. Okay, I was copying your language.
There was an episode of Recess where they are literally just handing out stuff like that, and the kids are like, "Oh, what's this?"
I just found it interesting how they go from being sick looking at haggis to seeing. I don't know how to describe it, because like JayBee said, if it's a genuine dish, I don't want to like. I'd say it looks almost like cement.
I mean, do we know that?
Okay, yeah.
Because I
was gonna say that. It looks like cement.
I just don't understand how you could look at that and be in like and think it looks like heaven, and then I mean, I've never eaten haggis, but like I imagine it represents food more than.
No, haggis isn't great. I've got to be honest. Although everyone's taste buds are different, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't like seafood, but I could happily be a shark my entire life. But here's the thing about food with this. Like at least 12 times throughout the movie, they mention something about macadamia
nuts.
Yes.
Something specifically Hawaiian? Are they from Hawaii? Because they seem to
let's check it.
go on about it a lot. Like, there's that medicine woman, and little Jim's like, oh, they make a mean macadamia pie, and
and the mayor kind of gifts them at the end.
They win a lifetime supply of macadamia.
Speaking of the mayor, I don't know if I'm just suspicious of everybody in this, but I just found them really creepy.
It almost seems like, like with the Loch Ness Monster, they had someone related to Daphne. It's almost like at some point they were meant to be related to Fred and they animated it and then just went, oh wait,
Yeah.
never mind.
I could see that. Kind of like a bit of a crazy auntie or something.
Fred's crazy. Well, it could be. It could be. Maybe it's
So-
Ooh.
It looks like macadamia nuts are indigenous to Australia, but Hawaii do quite a bit with them still.
Okay, so I guess that checks out. I was just a bit curious because it's like, why go on about that? Like, I was watching The Sword and the Scoob recently, and one thing they mentioned about coming to the UK was, oh look, we can get fish and chips. And it's like, okay, to me that makes sense because for all we're not just living off fish and chips over here, there are places that are renowned for that dish. It's a very popular thing over here. You've got like local chippies wherever you're going. But I was just wondering if it was like that for Hawaii.
What exactly is fish and chips? Am I dumb?
Well, what's the definition? So you get a fish and it's battered in what? It's just
It's-
Okay,
batter,
so it's
right?
actually a fish.
It's like it's like a fillet from a fish. So when you get a fish, and obviously there's like the spine in the middle, you can cut a fillet off either side of the fish. One of those fillets is literally dropped in like this flour and milk and egg kind of mix, and then dropped into boiling oil to like get all crispy and stuff. And then it comes with like a really thick cut potato fries, like yeah.
Yeah, with like, oh,
So-
it's gorgeous. It's greasy paper that goes around it. You can have vinegar,
yeah.
salt, ketchup. Oh, and mushy peas. I'm getting hungry now. Oh my gosh. I don't know why you guys do this to me.
I think we're all hungry.
Okay, so then I feel like one of the next things that happens is, are we almost at the party scene?
I want to say so because my next
Sure.
kind of note says that the music, the instrumental at the night party is cool. Now, not the chase scene, but our first initial introduction towards that nighttime party sets it up really well. Again, fire dancing, big Lilo and Stitch vibes.
Yeah, I also kind of like the more like light-hearted, almost comedic element of Scooby Doo. Like when Shaggy does the limbo thing and then Scooby digs underneath. I just think that's very kind of. I do like the light-hearted moments in Scooby Doo, I must admit.
Yeah, and Limbo is something else I've always wanted to try, and I never have. I think I'd be very bad at it, but it is what
Me
it
too.
is.
Another kind of element to this is, again, just something that I was kind of throwing out there with this, is I don't understand why Manu's at the party. Like, if his girlfriend had just gone missing, and we saw the little mini tea kids carry her off, they know what direction they went in. Like, I feel like I'd be busy trying to find them as opposed to, like, turning up at a party.
And someone would have, like, did they not leave tracks? And they'd be...
For that many creatures to walk in the same direction through a very overgrown area, you'd think they'd be quite trackable because all the plants would have been flattened.
Yeah. And although people would be able to see where they were going, like, there's people in cars that... I refuse to believe that there was that many of them, and not one person that wasn't even interested in the event didn't, like, hit one of them down with their car or something.
Yeah.
And then that would have just exposed the animatronic. I think if you're a shopkeeper and you just see that out of the window, you'd be terrified.
I mean, I do have a few issues with the animatronic thing. So we see here that I've put the freaky tikis, like I don't know the exact name for the small ones, but like I get that they're remote controlled and things like that, but I feel like they're all doing too many different things for it to be remote controlled. Like you've got one jumping on things, one setting fire to something.
No, they're just
And I feel like if
gremlins.
they're all remote controlled, which we do see later on, that they'd all make the same movement.
Yeah, that's true. Unless... Oh, how does Scooby record, like, control them at the end? They are all doing the same thing.
Yeah, they
They're
just
doing
do
it
the
at
same movement.
I guess multiple remotes. There may
But then
be
you'd need
multiple
multiple
factions.
people.
Like, well, yeah, that's true. Maybe they've got a control panel, like, you know, Team A are the arsonists, Team B are the gremlin electronic people. But I think they could have done a lot more damage, to be honest, because if they're setting fires, like, they could have won very easily in this scene alone.
Well, to be fair, as we found out at the end for the motivation behind it, they didn't want to do too much damage because they wanted to be able to buy the place up and resell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
At the end of the, I know that you've written this down as well, JayBee, but one thing that I like towards the end of the party is that we start to see some more independence from Daphne again. She, like, for a little while we started to see her as just like the damsel in distress again, but I like that at the, like, when she was being carried away, she like saved herself.
I like that a lot.
As opposed to you getting like Fred setting a trap to stop them taking her or something like that. She was just like, yeah, I've got this.
It could also be a hint as well, because for all Daphne is, I guess, quite, like, you know, in like the past movies, they have been built up as a bit more of a fighter than you'd expect. But it could also be a hint, like, if Daphne can escape from these freaky tikis, then, you know, Snooki maybe wasn't being as honest as we would have thought in not being able to escape. So perhaps that's a bit of a hint.
I mean, to be fair, as Snooki was been taken away, she looked like she was at a photo shoot. She didn't look like she was struggling.
What?
Yeah.
She was just like lounging there.
Just asleep.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Yeah, I feel like they did do a lot right with Daphne in this movie. Like, she also has the surfing thing. I really like the patterns there, how it's almost like the Mystery Machine flowers and things, but turned into this pink and purple mix for the surfing scene.
I agree. But on this, one thing I can praise this movie about is the side characters. Like, we've already spoken about Adam West, but I actually really like this Ruben Lalula? Ruben's character.
Who's Ruben?
They're like, you know, the presenter that was the kind of forefront of the hotel?
Yeah.
Like, for all they're not, I guess, as memeable as a Jasper or as, you know, iconically creepy as Lester, they're just a nice, fun presence that they show up, they do their thing, and they're almost there to be a bit of a, I don't know, a corporate face that's at the end of the day just trying to do their best in this utterly ridiculous situation, and I kind of respect that.
Okay, so randomly doing some research on the Ruben guy. He was voiced by Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob. I did not hear that at all.
No, I know that they've done a lot of voices, although I can't believe that that's SpongeBob.
Right?
I can't tell if that's my childhood ruined or if it's just been made better. Imagine that. I would, to be that good with voices.
I
Like,
mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it's amazing. We've been watching the bonus features afterwards and just seeing, and it literally shows the recording studio of these people sat there and changing their voices. And the voices that they're making, it doesn't match what you see.
but how do they resist? Because I'm not being funny. I thought the same thing when we were watching the bonus features for the Cyber Chase. Whoever played the Phantom Virus, I could not be that person without speaking like the Phantom Virus at least 50% of the day. Like, you imagine
Yeah,
that you
true.
rock up to like your kid's school or you're a gym teacher or something and you just like, let's play ball. I just couldn't resist. If I was Frank Welker, I'd be the most annoying next door neighbor in the world because I'd be barking in the garden to like scare burglars away. I would have the best fun of myself in the world. Would you not do the same, Millie?
No,
What would you do?
not that.
Not that.
So I'd started to mention the Daphne surfing scene. Was there anything else that
Are
anybody
we
wanted
even
to mention
on that?
before
Where
that?
are you skipping to? 'Cause
I just finished the party thing and was talking about the surfing, but like I said, do you have anything
Oh,
else?
well, I guess my thing was that I really didn't like how they seem to have substituted the song chase scenes in at least the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
Because for all I don't really need to rely on it being an audio song, so with like vocals and voices, it can just be a cool instrumental, a bit like with the ending song from the Cyber Chase, where the kind of doppelgangers are all meeting up. But this one is just so weak because the mini tikis show up in quite a cool way, with like the fire going on, and the chase scene is just they run about after a member of the gang, something kind of goofy happens, and then you just get a little musical cue like and it's like when Scooby Doo is so renowned for those kind of cool chase scenes,
especially in the Loch Ness just before this.
Like, yeah, imagine that. But, and I guess because it isn't the main monster, it maybe doesn't have the same effect, but I think for this scene, it maybe needed a bit more than a kooky Looney Tunes soundtrack.
I mean, for me, it didn't even improve when we do get to the main monster, because not long after that, like literally the next day, we see when Daphne's surfing that the Wiki Tiki arrives, and like when I see them, I'm like, yes, finally, I was ready for this chase scene.
Yeah,
I was ready for this. This is great. And the music starts, and I'm like, it's okay. It's gonna pick up in a second. And I keep just thinking, it's okay. It's gonna happen in a second, and it doesn't hit the same level that most Scooby-Doo chases do.
I mean, I like the music for that in the moment, that kind of surfer dude vibe. But in hindsight, with that being almost the main musical sequence, it definitely falls flat. Although I do like it in the moment.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the music actually because I rewatched this one so we could talk about whatever. I sent you guys a little message. I was like, I'm watching it, and that was something I noticed is the music. This one's really weird, I feel like, because there is like half of the movie where the music's like very catered to the Hawaiian setting, which is fine. But then there's this other half where it kind of started with Loch Ness Monster, just barely, but I'm noticing it a lot more in this one. But there was kind of this like, kind of like Mr. Incorporated. There's just this music of Mr. Incorporated, and then it kind of started transitioning into the movies, like with the reveal music, seeping into the movies from Mr. Incorporated and stuff. But with these movies, there was this like specific overtune. I felt like a selection of overtunes that they would use throughout these movies. Again, kind of starting with Loch Ness Monster, and it went all the way to the Goblin King, which then the Goblin King is like purely all the overtune that they've just been making up through these movies. And so it's interesting because like again rewatching this one, it would go from like this Hawaiian tune to all of a sudden like What's New Scooby-Doo's overtune, and I was just like, which direction are we going with the music here?
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was almost so different than the others because they again use this consistent theming as well, where every time they focus in on a clue, it was almost like I don't know how to describe the effect, but it was like I don't know, it was a weird like musical cue, and for all it's good, like in hindsight it just stands out. So this, like the Loch Ness Monster movie had that, that kind of vocal song. The movie after this will have that mummy song, and this one doesn't really have that moment. It's just there. It's like
the last few all have had really good musical moments. So like you're saying, for the Loch Ness, the chase scene outside the castle, I think it's got a really good song to it. The Monster of Mexico, I think, had a really good song too. Legend of the Vampire, again, the Outback kind of montage. This does seem just like the odd one out.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to have one. Like the Sword and the Scoob, I'd argue, didn't really have one. Like I was waiting for one when we did our initial reaction. For you, Smash, I was gearing up for that moment, and I thought it was gonna happen when Velma, they're like cornered by the Morgan Le Fay dragon, and Velma's like, I know one word that'll work for this gang, run. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be the musical moment, and it just didn't happen, but it still kind of worked in its own way. Whereas this, because I've become so used to that classic vibe, I thought maybe they'd started to phase out songs eventually for some movies. it was just like, well, where is it? I feel, and I'm pretty sure I remembered one as well. Like, I remember, and maybe this is like the Mandela effect, but when they're going on to do like the surfing things and the pig goes on like the front of the jet ski,
Yeah.
I remembered for some reason a full sequence where Shaggy, Scooby, and the pig are on a surfboard rather than a jet ski, and it's a more extended scene. For some reason, I've got that in my head, and I was waiting for it, and it was just, I don't know, maybe my memory is just not what it used to be, but I remember more music being present in.
A lot of the Scooby movies, like, because now you got me thinking, like, uh, just like thinking of the recent ones, like Curse of the 13th Ghost has a music sequence. Return to Zombie Island does, but then Happy Halloween Scooby Doo doesn't, and The Sword and the Scoob doesn't. So they're very hit or miss with the movies of having like a music chase sequence. The episodes, it kind of depends on the series more or less, you know, with the vibe. Like Mr. Incorporated never really had one. A little romp is what they're technically called, but then like you know, you get into Be Cool Scooby Doo and every episode has a romp, you know, so it's very hit or miss.
I would say the Happy Halloween Scooby Doo almost has more of a musical fight scene rather than a chase scene,
Yes,
which was
yes,
cool to
that's
switch
right.
it up a bit, but I don't know, it's devoid of it here. Completely devoid of it. But again, that's not a massive thing against the film. It's just very, very noticeable, and I'm almost
Yep.
wondering why they do it, because they've clearly like done it, like made an effort for the intro and the outro to like source a relatively decent song. I enjoy it, so I don't know, I guess they just didn't think it would fit the vibe, but at the same time, throughout this scene where they're all like kind of trying to battle the Wiki Tiki, none of them really say anything. It is just purely musical, so I don't know, it's
Maybe
a
they
bit
used all their money on the Hawaiian singer.
maybe they should have just done. I don't know. Maybe they should have just reused something at this point. So, another thing that confused me about the Wiki Tiki surfing scene is I'm a bit confused about where Daphne was in the sequence. Like, she jumps on the Wiki Tiki's head once at the end, which was cool. But then it's like, what? They're leaving the Wiki Tiki to be defeated by Shaggy and Scooby. Now, for all they're capable, it's kind of like if you've got Daphne already in the water, like I would have just thought that she'd be more willing to step in and fight the Wiki Tiki.
Yeah, it was. It was an interesting kind of scene, I feel like, because it's not your classical type of chase scene. You know, it's on the water, and you have Fred in the air, you have Velma on like a jet ski, you have Daphne surfing, you have Shaggy and Scooby sometimes surfing, sometimes fumbling. Uh, I get what they were trying to do. Like it was very unique for the setting and everything, but I definitely get what you're saying. It doesn't feel balanced. It's like, oh, you get to see everybody else kind of interact with the Wiki Tiki for a second, and then Shaggy and Scooby take it away.
Yeah, and I guess they want to make it appeal to younger audiences. That's why the pig's involved. It's this kind of cute little thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's like just imagining what Daphne is doing, and there's like she's just like stood there watching them, and like, oh yeah, I guess I'll step in at some point. But again, they've done Daphne's look so well here though, like the bikini, the surfboard. It's all coordinated so well. I like the production value for this because it always makes me a bit like one thing that let me down a bit in the cyber chase was when they didn't have specific outfits all the time. It was just one generic uniform. Whereas this,
Yeah.
there's just so much personality put into it. Like, I,
We
again,
even start to see it in her personality again, like
yeah,
so coming up we've got that hair trick thing where she's trying to decide which direction to head in. There's also that thing with where she drops her entire bag to be able to save herself with that floss, which to be fair I think is slightly comical that floss is supposed to take her entire weight. That did make me giggle a little bit.
I mean, I do want to talk about Daphne, surprise, surprise, quite a lot because I feel like this movie maybe it got some backlash at some point for something that I can't really explain. I don't know what. But I feel like this movie actively goes out of its way to show Daphne being capable, which I would normally applaud, but I think it gets to a point where in this movie in general, it gets absolutely ridiculous. Because the first time I'm like, yeah, this is great, you know, Daphne power, she's amazing, she's on fleek, she's looking great. But then when it happens for the 8th time where she's clearly just getting herself into trouble just to prove that she can get herself out of it, it's like, okay. The first 4 times it was kind of endearing, but like the 6th time when she's like falling into like the Wiki Tiki's den at the end, it's like, what is happening? Can we stop?
Yeah, my thing was, I felt like eventually it kind of came off almost, I don't know, kind of rude to Fred of like, I can help myself, thank you type of thing. Like, yeah, it almost felt like she was, I don't know if I'd say specifically trying to get herself in danger, but she very much was like, okay, everybody else go, so if something happens to me, I got it under control.
Especially with the bridge, it just seemed almost made that way. Like, Fred
Yep.
goes across, Velma goes across, and then Shaggy and Scooby full on use the bridge as a bouncy castle, and then Daphne takes 2 steps and she falls through.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I don't know. I do appreciate that they have shown her to be more capable, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like there should be a better way of making that come across than she just needs to do that.
I wonder if they like started doing it with this movie. Now, why they did it so heavily with this movie, I don't know, but I wonder if it's kind of came from this movie because both live action movies had just, both come out in theaters, they had finished their run and whatever, and maybe people were praising Daphne in it, and so they were like, ooh, we should do that for the cartoon movies now.
Yeah. It certainly is quite a lot of a change.
Yeah, I'd agree to that. But the sequence ends, and we move on to, I think they go back to the hotel, and then I think they head out in that rental car with Manu.
Auntie Mahina.
Auntie Mahina, yeah, that's it. They go to see Auntie Mahina. And at first I questioned why Manu wasn't driving, because it's like, you'd need them to get around places, but obviously if it's a rental, maybe they weren't insured. But to me it was a bit much that they suddenly had to stop and leave the car just defenseless there because I guess the forest was too dense. And then Fred was getting so close to Manu while he was full on swinging this machete about, and it's like, that's ridiculous.
To me, this is getting a bit formulaic in that they almost feel like they have to have one of these spiritual characters that they go to for advice, and at this point they're not actually adding much. Like, we saw it with Monster of Mexico, we saw it with Legend of the Vampire.
The Wise Words of Ostrich.
Yeah, in Monster of Mexico, it was literally just, here's a card for my website kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, in Monster of Mexico, it got to the point where it was a bit like, okay, this is a bit unnecessary, this is a bit strange. And I feel like that was just exemplified here as well, that it was just like this really doesn't have much purpose, does it?
Here's what confuses me though. This Auntie Mahina is innocent by the end of it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Like, the gang, she reunites with the gang and it's like, oh, thank you for solving the mystery. But again, Mandela effect, I could have sworn that she was in on it, or the reason why Manu sent the gang there was because she was particularly, like, scared of the Wiki Tiki, or he'd planted something in her mind about the Wiki Tiki. But are we just to assume that she's selling herself as this medicine woman, and she's actually just sat there talking a load of hogwash to people? Like, fellas, I don't know. Like, she says a lot of stuff about the Wiki Tiki, and she conjures this flame, and are we assuming she's lying?
She believes. Like, I think at this point it's just a chemical reaction that occurs. I don't think she's trying to mislead. I think maybe she does believe this stuff.
But does Manu must know that, right? That's why the gang was sent there. It's not like they're just gonna rock up and this Aunt Mahina's gonna go, oh yeah, the Wiki Tiki doesn't exist. Oh yeah, great.
Well, yeah.
I kind of wonder if, because Manu gets kidnapped by the Wiki Tiki, before they get to Auntie Mahina's. I wonder if Manu expected them to just get lost in there and never make it to Auntie Mahina's and just be like lost, and then maybe after his plan succeeded, he would go back and find them. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd, or perhaps Manu knew that the first thing that they would tell Auntie Mahina is that Manu was captured. Therefore, it makes her even more scared of the Wiki Tiki that she maybe half believes in beforehand.
Yeah.
So there's like a tangible proof of the Wiki Tiki existing. But I don't know, that part's just a little bit confusing. So yeah, we've spoken about Daphne's hair trick, which is actually, again, really good. I think a good way of doing that as well, and I was legit taught this, like, this is just an iconic movie, because I remember so much about this. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm feeling more strongly about this movie than I think a lot of the others that we've discussed before. And I can't really pinpoint why, because by no point do I think it's the best one we've covered. In fact, I think it may be weaker compared to some of the others. But I really love this movie, so far at least.
Okay, so am I right in saying that pretty much the next thing that happens is they go back to the town and then set off to find the volcano and see what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, we've skipped over the bridge bit a bit, but I think we kind of covered that.
Yeah. So obviously they go to the cave now. They're starting to look for Snooky, for Manu. I feel like they really like these kind of endless cave style things. They're a bit dramatic, but I feel like it's a formula that they really approve of. I liked a bit of the different dynamic where it goes from all the bats being scary to that really cute one that lands on Shaggy and like kisses his nose. That's quite sweet.
Yeah, that's sweet.
It reminds me of a bit of a story that JayBee and I have. So,
oh no.
I think JayBee and I had been together about a year when I was like, okay, I'm gonna like plan a little weekend away. We're gonna go to the zoo. And one of the things at the zoo was a bat cave, and I was like, have you ever been in a bat cave before? Or do I kind of need to talk you through this? And he was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. So we walk through this curtain. It's pitch black. There's bats flying around over your head. And he's like, what is this? Oh my goodness, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's a bat cave. You said you'd been in a bat cave. And he was panicking so much because there was just all these bats like catching against your clothes, your ears, just flying around over your head. And just seeing this reminded me of that. But I just found it funny because you literally said to me like, yeah, I've been in one of these before, and you really hadn't.
No, because I went into one of them in, I think, Toronto, and it's literally just them huddled together in this cabinet just chilling. This was a walkway where they could have landed in my mouth if they'd wanted to. I was screaming that much. Like, that's just creepy.
It's kind of funny because, like, growing up watching Scooby, I feel like there's so many different bat scenarios in different episodes and movies of Scooby. And I've never necessarily, I don't think they've really used bats in Scooby to be scary. I mean, maybe here or there, like maybe for a vampire-esque episode or something. But actually, where I live, during the summer, so like right now, every night there are bats flying just everywhere outside. Like, I see bats just constantly. Like, I don't know, it's one of those things you don't really think about, like people seeing bats. You kind of think, oh yeah, you need to be in a bat cave or something. But like, for me, like, bats are so ordinary just because of where I live. Like, they fly everywhere in the evening. You always see them.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar, I don't want to say relationship with bats, but certainly I used to spend a lot of time in Cyprus, and if you look up in the sky, you're gonna see like the stars being blocked out by like bats and stuff. Like, there's been occasions where bats have even been stuck in like buildings and things, and for all they're not inherently terrifying, like, they are very much out in the open, and they're kind of creepy, not gonna lie.
Okay, funny story about bats. Here's my funny story about bats. So this was quite a while ago now, but my mom was coming home from work one night, and she she calls my dad every time, like whoever's getting off first, they call each other. But anyway, she's like driving home, talking on the phone, whatever, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I think I hit something or whatever." My dad's like, "What? Like, did the car bump or something?" Anyway, she gets home and my dad, comes out and he puts on gloves and whatever and is looking, and a bat had gotten itself stuck in the windshield wipers of her car.
No way.
And so my dad very carefully lifted it up and picked up the bat, and it was fine. It flew away, but it didn't try to attack or anything. It was just like, "Okay, thanks, bye."
Aw. That's actually really wholesome. I like that. I mean, for all it probably wasn't a great night for the bat or a great day for the bat.
Yeah.
It was kind of cute that it had that ending, but I don't know, I think people are a lot braver than I am, because I think I would have screamed.
I mean, you're not on your own here, because we're about to transition from one of your big fears to one of my big fears, because
Oh no.
this is starting to build up to one of my favourite moments of the movie. I really like the Love Moonlit Night song that Shaggy does.
Yes.
But
Oh, yes.
my big fear is snakes. Huge,
Oh, I hate
huge
snakes.
fear.
Can't do them.
Thing I'm most scared of. So I'm happy that it's that Scooby Doo, that this was an animated Scooby Doo movie as opposed to a live action, because the
Oh my
sight of
gosh.
that many snakes, it would have been turned off.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
It gave me huge Indiana Jones vibes. Again, though, I kind of can't relate to you guys on that phobia. Again, with the Cypress thing, I used to actively go underneath rocks, which I really shouldn't have been doing. I do not recommend this. If you somewhere where there's snakes, do not go looking for them. But I used to collect snake skin to the point where I'd go under rocks and pull out what I thought was snake skin and just collect them in a jar. But to me, as long as they're not poisonous and you've got antidote there, that it's just like lizards without legs. Or worms with funny eyes. I think snakes are gorgeous. I would happily have a pet snake. But you won't let me, will you?
No. He found that snake skin that he'd collected, and honestly, the phobia that I have is that bad. I literally started crying, telling him to keep it away from me, because he had one that was literally from a snake's head. You could see where the eyes were and everything.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
To the point where I was
Gorgeous piece.
crying. I was like, "Don't put that anywhere near me, please. I can't." I genuinely, it's an awful phobia.
I just like them a lot. I don't know why.
Have you guys seen Scooby Doo Legend of the Phantasaur?
No, but
No.
I did get that on DVD recently, I think.
Ready
Yes.
for the watch through.
Well, I watched Stage Fright for the first time last night. At some point, I want to do Phantasaur.
So just so Millie's aware, there's a similar scene in that movie like this where they're in a cavern full of snakes and they have to jump over them and whatever. Just so you're aware.
I mean, honestly, when there's snakes in it, I've never been so grateful in my life that Scooby Doo's predominantly animated stuff, because
Yeah.
I don't want to watch that. I have a sister-in-law from Australia. I don't know if I've told you about her, but she once woke up to a snake in her shower, and she just
Ew.
had to
No.
get her dad to "Dad, come get rid of this," just like it was a normal day.
Yeah, but you could have charmed it. You just get a recorder or a clarinet out. You can charm it. It dances about. It's your friend. Look, I'm sure my grandparents at some point charmed the snake. I'm gonna learn. And I'll do it out of love. I'll do it romantically. So literally one day we're going to be in Australia on holiday together. Maybe it'll be on our Spooky Island vlog. And there's going to be a snake. You're going to be terrified. And I'm going to just charm the snake and you're going to love me forever. That's my pledge.
Thanks, JayBee.
And Smash is going to be there when I do it.
Okay, but I need to bring my girlfriend then, Mariah, because she keeps telling me she wants a pet snake, and I'm so no.
Yes. Have you ever seen a series of
Why do
unfortunate
people
events?
want pet snakes? I don't understand.
Like, in a series of unfortunate events, there's this whole room called the reptile room, and growing up, to me, that would be like my ideal living space. I'd just love to be able to like study them and cuddle them.
You're
Like,
insane. Like, I have so many like bad memories attached to snakes. We were once at a zoo, and one of the zookeepers was just walking around holding this snake, letting people just get pictures holding it and all that kind of thing. And I'd not seen that it was happening. So I stepped back and nearly walked into this person holding the snake, and I cried and cried.
okay, no, that would even
for
give me
about
the
half
willies
an
if I was
hour.
caught unprepared.
And then when my dad found out, he was like, "Oh, well, I want to get my picture. I want to get my picture." And I was literally crying my eyes out, begging my dad not to hold the snake. Like, no, it's gonna hurt you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like, my phobia of them is insane.
That's really cute, though.
Okay, so my mom, her grandma, so my great grandma, which I was able to know my great grandma before she passed away, but so my mom's grandma, my great grandma, was very much like she grew up kind of out on the farm and whatever, and so she was very much a like tough woman, like, and so like nothing bothered her. She said it as it is, and she took no crap and whatever. Anyway, my mom has told me this story a bunch, but I guess my mom would visit her grandma, like during the summer, spend some time with her and whatever. And I guess one time she was there, because again, my great grandma lived on like, bunch of land and whatever, so it was very open. But there was like a rattlesnake, just by their house and whatever. And my mom doesn't like snakes either, and so she's like, what the frick do I do? And my grandma, okay, again, she just had no fear, but she just like walked up, chopped the snake's head off, and was like, okay, moving on. And my mom was like, that's it. And my great grandma was just like, okay, come on, let's go.
I think if I ever travel to a hot country, I'd need to take her with me. Like, I need someone like that around.
I know, she was so like just unbothered by it. She was just like, stupid snake, like it's a mice or something. I'm like, what?
There's like so many different people in the world. I'd probably like either try and pull out a recorder and charm it, others would just run, and then there's that. Like, that's amazing. Oh my god.
That's incredible.
Although, a bit mean, especially considering rattlesnakes are probably the only ones that give you a warning when they're there.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
imagine that. How cool would that be if we went to Australia and I got like a rattlesnake like sound effect?
Poor Milky.
You are cruel. He likes watching these videos on YouTube, like the 10 biggest snakes found in the world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they scare me that much that I can't even have my feet on the floor while he's watching them.
Yeah.
We're watching them together. I get visions of them like snakes just been on the floor and have to physically lift my feet up. It's
Well, have you guys ever been to one of those like 4D cinemas?
no.
They're a bit trippy.
Yes.
But there's like, if there's like sequence where there's like, if there's crabs or spiders about, you can feel them on your feet, and I can't do that. They're too much.
I've only been to like one of those, because I know there's some like in Disneyland and Disney World, or there had been. But the one I went to, there's a place in Las Vegas called M&M World, like the candy M&Ms.
Yeah.
And they have a 4D movie about M&Ms, and that's like the only one, but they didn't have anything like that in it, it's different stuff, but
See, I get that, and I'd love to do theme parks in the future. Though it's just because I just cannot do rides that if I go to a theme park, like with this like Spooky Island thing, I'd love to go there, and obviously there's like Universal thing. But if it's a roller coaster, I can't do it. If it's the teacups, I can't do it. Nothing I can do. I can't even dive.
You're really funny with rides. Like, we once went to this zoo, and part of the zoo was that there was like a few little rides there as well.
Oh no, they weren't little.
And one of the rides was like a pirate ship that just went backwards and forwards. It wasn't really very much.
It was a massive swing.
And we had there was JayBee and I, and then there was 2 children on the ride as well. And after about 2 minutes, one of the children started crying. And because there wasn't very many people on the ride, the attendant was like, look, I'm really sorry. I'm just slowing the ride down for the children. They're going to get off and then I'll put it back on just for you two. And before the bar had even lowered for the children to get off, JayBee jumped up, got off the ride, down the stairs, left me on the ride completely on my own. And he was like, I'm not getting back on that. And they literally just stopped it for these 4-year-old children to get off. So JayBee's fear of rides is special.
It's scary. It's scary.
I don't, like, I always say, you know, like Disneyland and Disney World and whatever, they never appeal to me, but because I can't go on like so many rides because of my heart condition. And, you know, so I'm really there for just like the little side experiences and whatever. But there was one time there's a place here in the state of Utah where I live that's called Lagoon, and which, okay, to be fair, Lagoon honestly somewhat feels like a knockoff version of Spooky Island, not gonna lie. But we were there one time with my family and I kind of saw this ride and whatever, and they were like, oh yeah, my family was like, you could totally do this one, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'll get the guts to do it and whatever. Anyway, I went on it, and it was kind of like a Teacups-esque ride, but it's like where, you know, it was one of those rides where the whole platform spins, but then the little thing you're in also spins. Anyway, I was like, I was really young, but I was like screaming bloody murder, like, get me off. And I guess some lady went up to my parents and was like, is that your kid? And they were just like, oh yeah, he has a heart condition. It's scary for him. He's fine.
Oh my gosh.
That's so cool. I mean, I love hearing those stories, but legit, one day, me, Millie, you, Mariah, Spooky Island, that's definitely going to be a thing.
I want to go just to experience it, like not even for the rides, just to wander around.
You see, that's my thing as well, because before I had this weird brain aneurysm thing, and I think it's gone now, but apparently I'm not allowed to go diving underwater. But when I was diving beforehand, on my bucket list was the Great Barrier Reefs, and obviously they're in Australia, and a part of me just kind of wants to risk it for a biscuit if we go there and just dive. But then if I'm that scared of that type of thing that I don't think I would do it. Maybe when I'm very elderly and it won't matter. But the Great Barrier Reefs would be so fun to do. Or even if Millie wants to dive down there with like an underwater camera.
I'd do it.
There you go.
I'm not scared of the water, just snakes. Other than that, I'm good.
Actually, there's water snakes in Australia, isn't there?
I didn't think about that.
Shouldn't have told her that.
Thanks, JayBee.
Oh no, that would be fundamentally dangerous though. If you scream.
To be fair, I've seen a water snake before. I can't remember where we were, but I was on holiday, and we were sat next to the sea. We were sat along the seafront at this kite festival thing, and my mum just looked into the water, and there was like a snake thing just in the water next to it.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm 10 times more scared of sea snakes.
I just naturally started screaming, and honestly, in the past, my parents have had to walk over and explain to people that I'm just a bit mad. Because I'll just see stuff like a snake in a zoo and start screaming. They
should have done those Joker printouts, excuse our daughter, this is Millie, she has issues. But I guess, going back to the film, where even are we? We are at the robot reveal now. They've
the head up, there's the robot reveal now.
Well, one thing I would add before that, and I'm not sure if this is just me overthinking things, but I was almost suggesting that they were maybe even almost too quick to trust Snooki. Now, even though she's clearly unharmed, you can add some liberties to that. At the end of the day, it's Scooby Doo. She's not gonna be visibly in pain or beaten up. But you'd expect her to be at least tied up
or grateful to see them as opposed to running away.
She just screams in their faces and runs. Imagine that. So I don't know. I just thought one member of the gang, maybe Velma, should have been a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
But let's see.
I think Snooky's a very almost annoying character because it's just like you're ruining the plot. This isn't what would happen. Like, even right from being carried off at the start, you'd have been fighting, you'd have been trying. She literally looked like she was lounging for some sort of photo shoot. It's like, come on.
She, I feel like, was not developed well, and I almost feel like they had Manu as, spoiler alert, everyone, Manu as the villain, and then like they were almost like, oh, but who's controlling the little tikis? And so they were like, Snooky, you know, kind of like almost super late into it, and so they, you know, so they were just, I don't know, they didn't. She's not a good villain to me, or criminal, like. Because, yeah, she's so just like, oh no, I'm caught. Bye.
I really don't like her. I don't like the reveal either. Like, when it's like, oh, she was controlling the things and she was right there. It's like, she wouldn't have been right there. If she's been kidnapped, you're not going to let her walk back into a party where everyone is. No one's gonna do that. If that was the plan, they wouldn't have had her kidnapped in the first place, so it didn't look weird if she was there. Like, come on, think about things, please.
I mean, I would have even have taken a bit of a goofier approach to it, like some way they could have made it a bit more like modern Scooby Doo movies where they're like determined not to make it supernatural. So even just at the end of it, they unmask Manu and Fred's like, well, what about the mini tikis? And they're just like, the what? They're not from us. And it ends with just a mini tiki. Like, even that, I think, would have been better, because it's like,
that would have been so cool.
With these tikis of cost.
That thing that you've just said there, JayBee, I think is a very prominent thing. Like, I've written that down. He said, like, how much would these tikis cost? They're clearly to be able to do what they do with very
especially when
control,
the movie was made.
Yeah, they would be so expensive. And at the end, it's like, oh yeah, we did this because we need the money. You had an army of about 200 of these things cornering everybody. How do you need the money? Just don't waste it on these things. And
like last time we saw animatronics of this scale, it was Mr. Smiley, and he owned a theme park. This guy is a surfer dude, and he's got a legion of these metal gremlins. It is ridiculous.
Around this part of the movie as well, Velma does start to annoy me because they find the surfboard, like, oh, it says this on it, like, and check this photo out that I've had for like 2 days now that says it on it. I already knew this. It's like, because she didn't need to think about it. She was literally like, oh, you see this label on the surfboard? Check out this picture. And it's like, come on.
No, not only
it
that.
reminds me of when we did the reaction to Sword and the Scoob. We all collectively in your reaction were a bit like, okay, she worked this out a while ago. Why didn't she share it with everybody? It was clear that she'd known for a good 24 hours that there was that label, the Aloha or whatever it is, on the surfboard. And it's like, well, if you know, why don't you share these things? Like, stop trying to be a little know-it-all. Explain it to everyone so that everyone can try and help you.
But not only that, it's ridiculous. Like, Manu and Snooky have built an army, they've rigged a volcano, but they can't hide a surfboard logo.
Have you guys seen the Ricky Gervais episode of Scooby Doo and Guess Who?
I have, yeah. I think Millie was asleep.
Yeah, I fell asleep.
So it really reminds me of that, because like in that episode, they kind of do the whole collectively like, oh, I know who it is or whatever. You know, they kind of say they know stuff, but they won't reveal it to the audience, you know, like you watching. And Ricky Gervais calls them out. They're like, then say it. Why aren't you saying it? And I'm like, that's how I feel like the audience is sometimes, where we're like, Velma, if you know, why do we have 20 more minutes of the movie?
Yeah, like, oh, I don't know. I find her character quite often. I get really annoyed at Velma. I don't know why, but like, it's just like, come on now. Either you're the most intelligent person in the world, or you're a dimwit. Why are you acting this way? Like in Sword and the Scoob, it was obvious to everybody. every single person in the world watching that movie was like, yep, her phone died. And she was like, no, there's some interference. I refuse it. I refuse to admit this. Like, no, your phone died. You know your phone's died. Why is it this huge performance when it's so obvious?
But to Velma's credit, it's like, and this is also annoying, but this is also in Velma's favour. And it's skipping forward a little bit so we can backtrack, obviously. But I was visibly irritated at the end of this movie when they go to unmask the Wiki Tiki and every single member of the gang except Scooby says who they think it is, and not one of them has it right up until the end. Because at that point, it doesn't make them a gang of mystery solvers. It's literally just Inspector Velma and her bodyguards.
Yeah, but it's like, if everyone else is so far off, I don't understand how it can be like, oh yeah, they're a gang, they work together, and everyone's so far off. Like, Velma's doing all this in her head but not communicating with anybody. Surely if like they communicate, they can work things out quicker.
It's just ridiculous. I don't like
There's
it.
the Phantasaur movie, actually. There's okay, not to spoil anything, but there's a moment in the movie where Daphne actually explicitly says, like, wow, usually takes us longer to solve the mystery or whatever. And, you know, it's, I don't know, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. No. It just seems the entire, like, Velma process. Like, I feel of all the characters, it's Velma that I always find myself getting annoyed with. Be it, like, the casting of the voice, or just, like I said, some of the common sense stuff, like, your phone died. It's as simple as that. Or if you've known about this logo for so long on the surfboard, why didn't you feel it necessary to share that? Like, why can't it just be that she's as surprised as everyone else with that? She finds out at the same time as the audience do. Why does it have to be that they almost have to make it look strange and almost jarring a bit and disproportionate for her to be like, oh yeah, I already knew about this? Because it's like, well, you know, this would have been a lot more cohesive if they didn't have to fit in space for you to be a bit of a know-it-all kind of thing.
Yeah,
I know. I unfortunately feel like since, like, the original series, or like the last time she was in an original series before, like, What's New Scooby Doo, or maybe Pup Named Scooby Doo, I just feel like, unfortunately, she's very hit or miss in, like, movies and shows and stuff. More so than movies, I feel like they can ground her a little bit better in a series because they kind of know what they're doing, whereas the movies, you know, different every time, you know. But I just unfortunately feel like the writers just have never really known where to take her character for a bit. Although I did like... Okay, well, here's my thing. I liked her kind of arc in Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, where she, like, you know, we come to learn she's like, I'm denying the supernatural because I'm afraid, and, you know, it's kind of my coping mechanism for my fear, blah, blah, blah. But then in The Sword and the Scoob, she just went right back to being like, no, we didn't time travel. And
yeah. I don't know. In terms of performance-wise, I think Mindy Cohn, I think that's what she's called, eventually goes on to be my favourite take on Velma. But for the time being, I'm kind of still missing BJ Ward, to be honest.
I think Mindy Cohn is a lot of people's favorite Velmas, and she does really good as Velma. She does. I feel like, just like, because this is only her second movie as Velma, I think she's still kind of learning her footing for the character, but also I think the writers are kind of learning how to write Mindy Cohn as Velma here. So, you know, little offbeat at times.
I think my issues with Velma are very much kind of writers' issues at this point. Like, I feel like we'd be a lot more impressed with her if, instead of everyone guessing wrong at the end and then she's like, oh yeah, it's this person, actually hearing her deductions, hearing what she's thinking, as opposed to her going, oh, well, I already worked this out. Like, I knew the label was there, and then, okay, it's this person. Like, okay, well, congratulations. It's great that you know that. Well done. Wouldn't it be a lot nicer if instead of doing it like a little bit of a know-it-all, you were actually explaining it so that everyone's a bit like, oh, wow, look at how she's thinking there. Like, this is great. As opposed to it just been, like, just thrown out there that she knew.
There's two random examples I'm thinking of where I feel like she does communicate better throughout it. There's an episode of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? I believe it's Never Ape and Ape Man, where we actually see the gang, like, in the middle of the episode, just, like, hanging out. Like, you know, some are in, like, beanbag chairs, some are on the ground, just kind of laying there and whatever. And they're discussing, like, okay, what have we learned? What have we, you know, like, they're discussing the clues and everything. And I think we need a lot more moments like that. But then I also think, because JayBee, you watched Stage Fright recently, in that movie, although I wouldn't say they necessarily talk to each other very much, I think they still did it well because, you know, like, Fred and Daphne are off doing rehearsals a bunch and whatever, and, you know, Shaggy and Scooby are doing whatever they do. But we actually see Velma, like, going and doing her own research a lot more in that movie, and so then it's not so much I, you know, have known it for like 5 days now. You know, we actually saw her gaining this knowledge and researching and searching out clues and whatever. So I feel like we need more of those types of things.
Yeah. Like, okay, maybe, I don't know if this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I'd almost say that I prefer how she is in the live action movies, where we see her want to research things, where we see her get influenced by external factors like Patrick, and she's like, oh, you know, it must be them, where we see that she can make mistakes and be influenced by emotions and all that kind of thing. I like how she is in those two movies so much more than how she is in these, where it's just like, it's this person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
What's painful about Velma's character almost is I feel that she has more potential than any of the gang to be our, not necessarily our favourite character, but our in character. Because I feel that if you're watching Scooby Doo, where, you know, be it as a child or as a teenager or as an adult, it's either for one of like, a couple of reasons. One, you know, it's nostalgia, it's fun, or it's because you like the idea of mystery solving detectives, even at like the fun level of it. And it's like, if Velma's gonna be the one that we can be on a journey with, if it needs to be her that's gonna gather the clues, gather the evidence, and then make a deduction, if we're following her thought process along that as well, she'd be the character that we'd latch onto through most of the story. But the fact that all that's hidden is just, we're almost as surprised as the rest of the gang, so we end up as clueless as everyone else if we haven't figured it out.
Yeah, like, I honestly think there's episodes of Scooby Doo where they unmask the person at the end, and I'm like, who? Like, who was this character? Have we met them yet? Like, like JayBee said, I think that I used to read a lot of mystery books growing up. Like, Enid Blyton is my favourite author of all time. And she's got, like, this series called The Five Find Outers, I want to say. Five Find Outers and Dog. And it's like, you know, they hold meetings every day. They discuss the clues and where they're at and their suspects list and all that kind of thing. And I love that. Like, when I was little, I made my own notebook and like copied out the clues and suspects and stuff myself, trying to work it out before I got to the end of the book. I love doing that. And like, for Velma just to pull a name out of thin air at the end that it doesn't even feel like we've met yet, it's sometimes just a bit like, okay.
Yeah.
I wish she'd caught everyone else up like half an hour ago.
Imagine if it's just in one of them, she just like rickrolls everyone, says the wrong thing, and then like, well, I guess that's why Velma, more than any of them, have villain reveals that is there. Like, I don't think any of the other, there's not been a story that I've seen at least where it's been a member of the gang and it hasn't been Velma. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there was Mr. Inc. had a couple of things where Velma was like quite integral, right?
Yeah, like, so Velma, like, spoilers I guess, is the monster in the next one. Velma is the witch in the lake monster.
Yep.
in quite a few occasions when they've got it to be a member of the gang, it's Velma. So
Yeah, it's always Velma.
I guess that's it, because everyone else would get it wrong, but then that's kind of a weak premise for it to, you know, for a team of mystery solvers.
Okay, so let's drag it back a little bit because I think we were kind of heading towards the reveal.
Yeah,
So they'd seen that there was the robot reveal. I think now we're at the kind of main surfing contest. Yeah. Now, my one issue with this that I think the animation's aged really badly is the height of the wave.
Yeah.
It's it's over the height of the buildings. It's like, what's going to happen when this wave breaks? It's not just going to rock up on the shore. Surely this is going to be like over buildings and just complete
like a tsunami
damage at this point. Yeah.
Overall though, there's a kind of moment that I think is almost subtle, and I think it's actually incredibly well done. I'm not sure if anyone like caught up on this, but throughout the entire film, like we said, there's this divide between the mainlanders and the locals, but it's like when it comes down to it, when that tsunami thing hit and that surfer dude that's being a bit obnoxious, it is little Jim that goes over to the tourist that he was kind of beefing with throughout. I was like, oh, okay. And just that distinction between little Jim being able to put his kind of feud aside to just be a person versus Manu's ego, I think that that's such a moment, and they don't linger on it, but that to me is brilliant.
I felt very validated in that moment because for the very first time I saw this, just when we are introduced to Manu, Sulky, and little Jim at the start, he was the only character that I was like, yeah, okay, I like a compelling character to follow, and this is the closest we get in this movie. And then for them to be that good at the end, and obviously for the reveal of Manu and Sulky as well, I was just like, yes, my instincts are right.
Yeah.
And it was good. Also, Daphne gets another great moment when Fred's like parachute thing catches on fire.
Oh, and she sprays the water.
Like, oh.
I'm not happy with the announcement that Scooby won, you know. I think Daphne won that.
You know what? I wrote that.
Yeah.
And I was scared to say it because you think I'm some weird Daphne simp, okay? But I'm not.
I know.
But she was robbed. She was robbed, and that's all I've got to say.
She was.
Because, like, literally, she put out a fire with a surfboard. Like, I'm weak. I'm weak at the knees right now. That's all I've got to say. Like, that's
I agree that she should have won. I don't get what the Scooby thing was about. And if Scooby won, Shaggy won, they're on the same surfboard.
Yeah, true.
And by that logic, yeah, they should have won. But maybe, I suppose,
it was a dog.
They do say in earlier parts at the start, like, the press really loves politicians that like dogs, so maybe the mayor just thinks that by awarding it to the dog will give us some points. And also, it's just funny to see Manu freak out that they lost to a dog.
Yeah, I don't like them at all.
But Manu also strikes me as the type of person that wouldn't like losing to a woman as well. I just think he seems like that type of
I don't think he can take losing in general.
Nah, he's got a god complex, I reckon. He's just a bad man.
Like, I will admit, I was very happy with the reveal where it's just like, yeah, you can go away now. You deserve this.
Yeah.
You've been awful throughout, like, go. But yeah, that kind of concludes my notes for the movie. Do either of you have anything else to add?
Just Fred's dance moves at the end are ridiculous. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing, but if anyone watching this wants to rewatch the end scene, it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. But I've also got a question. So, we've seen sequels to, obviously, Zombie Island. Do you guys think that they would ever do a sequel to a movie like Aloha, Scooby Doo that wasn't part of the glorified 4 at the start, or do you think it would just be ones that would have the name that people would recognize? Because I'm not saying this one deserves or needs a sequel, but it's like, out of the ones we're covering, do you ever see a sequel of any of them happening?
I wouldn't say necessarily this one I could see a sequel. They are, though, however, I mean, yes, they did like the follow up to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, and then they did Return to Zombie Island. But even aside from those, they're really starting to uh, slowly connect everything in a way in the Scooby movies with these newer ones. And they're having a ton of references and stuff, even in some of the episodes of like Scooby Doo and Guess Who. Like, there was an episode where they referenced Flim Flam from the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, and it was, just very little, but very nice that they acknowledged it. And like, but again, in the movies, they're also kind of doing these little winks and nods of bringing up past, like, movies and stuff, trying to connect everything, which is kind of what I really want for the movies, is I want everything to kind of, in a way, connect. And like I mean, yes, Return to Zombie Island was, supposed to be a sequel to Zombie Island, but they even brought up Reluctant Werewolf in that movie, like, and so that was really like, oh, okay, we're acknowledging that and whatever. So I'm not sure, like, for, say, Aloha Scooby Doo, they'd necessarily do a sequel, because I don't really see sequel potential in this one. But I definitely could see them, like, going back to Hawaii and at least, like, being like, hey, remember when we were here and solved the mystery of the Wiki Tiki? Like, I would appreciate that as a fan. The only other one I really think that I guess there could be a sequel, but again, I don't think it'd be a sequel. I'm just more so a connection is Chill Out Scooby Doo bring Del Chillman back again.
Oh, yeah, I figure is Del Chillman, is that the radio presenter?
Yeah, who was the guy who was very obsessed with the Loch Ness Monster. He comes back in Chill Out Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Smash that I think in terms of sequels, I think it'd honestly just be links to characters. Like, you could easily make a link back to Daphne's cousin or something like that. But not to actually adapt onto something.
Yeah, and like we say, things do contrast eventually, like Fred having different parents. I mean, I guess you could argue they have multiple parents in Mystery Incorporated as well, but again, it's like Fred's parents in Mystery Incorporated, either of them are so different than the ones we get in, like, Pirates Ahoy.
Yeah.
Because they're just like typical parents, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I guess in terms of the end credits are so much fun. That's what I've got to say. It's very rare that the side characters are given so much like gravitas, and maybe that's because they've got some pretty big names there. But the fact that they took time to like give everyone like their own little callbacks with the names at the end, I actually really do appreciate that detail a lot. So I guess, does anyone else have anything to say about the movie before we do our verdicts?
No, that's mine. It's done.
I have one more thing.
Ooh, okay.
So, Scooby Doo been going on for quite a while at this point, but this is the very first time, and the first movie, the first anything Scooby Doo, where we actually get Fred's middle name.
How is it? Herman?
Yep.
Is that canon? Like, is that?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. I like that. That's actually really cool.
Ooh, there's one thing that I want to pick up on. It's a special feature at the end of the
Oh yeah,
disc.
well, I don't know if we want to talk about that before the verdict or after the verdict, but we can talk about it whenever, because it is interesting.
Yeah, there was something really interesting. Have you watched the special features on the Disc Smash?
I have. I just wouldn't say I've seen them recently, but I have watched them all.
See, they do this interview at the end where it's like loads of little references to different things, and obviously this is after the live action movies, and as part of the interview, Fred turns around and he's like, oh, well, really, there's a sixth member to Mystery Inc. And Shaggy turns around and goes, I thought we weren't meant to mention Scrappy anymore. And Fred's like, oh, I mean the Mystery Machine. But, I just really liked that. I just thought it was
I forgot about that, yeah.
There's also, a whole, romantic love montage with Fred and the Mystery Machine. It reminds me, it almost seemed like a prototype of Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, that was
Speaking
just such a good thing.
speaking of Mr. Incorporated, there was actually one more little note I forgot. But the voice actress for Snooki, her name is Tia. Here's maybe why we don't like her. But she's the same voice actress that plays Judy Reeves eventually in Mr. Incorporated.
Judy Reeves.
She was Fred's real mom.
Oh. No way. Oh, she was mean though. Well,
Yeah, she's awful.
the pair of them though, both his parents, they were, you know what? It's just going on about this. One day, maybe when the movies are all done,
There's a lot to be said about Mystery
yeah,
Inc. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
gosh, like I hated the Fred's mayor dad in the first season,
And then loved
his
him in the
biological
second.
But then you
parents
love
came back,
him.
and I'm like, can we get
Yeah.
the mayor dad back? Like, I miss that guy. I miss the way he was making fun of Nick Avocados. I just want him. I just miss him. And
I know.
It hurt me. Bring him back. Give him his own show. That's all I want.
Okay, this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about besides Mr. Incorporated. So a lot of people want or maybe I have brought this up, but a lot of people want a third season of Mr. Incorporated. But I'm one of those, like, it concluded so well, I don't want them to ruin it by making up more stuff for it. What I want is a like prequel series where each season or even just an episode is about the previous Mystery Incorporated's story leading up to the Mystery Inc. we know now. I might have brought that up already, but I'm just putting it out in the universe. Someone make
No,
this.
That would be good. Like we've seen there were so many groups that followed beforehand. To almost have one per episode would be good.
Yeah.
A collection. And it could even end with like Pericles and that lot.
That was just super random.
No, I like that.
No,
a
you're
lot.
right. It would be good to see.
One day I can see them doing everything though. Eventually, like if they can revive the 13 ghosts after so long, eventually I could see them doing anything.
I know. I'm really, really. Hopefully, I don't get in trouble. I'm really, really interested to see, what comes back because, just from tons of rumors going around, I have heard that the 13 Ghosts story in some way isn't over yet.
Maybe there'll be.
Hopefully I don't get in trouble.
ghosts.
Well, I'm like, what are they going to do? Because what I want now, because of the Curse of the 13th Ghost movie, gave us some backstory on Vincent Van Gogh. I want a movie of just his story, of like how he, came to find the Chest of Demons, why he's a warlock, anyway.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. So.
Okay, so that wraps up this one. We are ultimately going to go to the verdicts now. So, JayBee, Aloha, Scooby Doo, smash or pass?
I'm a simple man. I see Daphne with a bikini.
Oh
I
my
say
God.
smash.
Is that it?
That's it. I say smash.
That really is.
I say smash.
Whatever makes you happy.
So,
You're a
Millie.
sad man.
Aloha, Scooby Doo. Smash or pass?
I'm sure I'll be able to manage something a little more academic than just Daphne in a bikini as a reason. I personally think that this one, I don't engage with it in the same way. Like, obviously I love the gang, but other than them, I don't find any other characters that I want to engage with. I don't engage with the music in the same way. There's lots of little bits that I like. Like I said, I really like how they did the outfit adaptations for this.
Me too.
Yeah, we know. I really like the song that Shaggy sings, but other than that, I don't engage with that much of this movie. So for me, this is a pass. So that just leaves it to smash. Ultimately, for this movie, would you say smash or pass?
So, okay, I have very nostalgic feelings for this one. Again, a bunch of the What's New era movies I'm very nostalgic for, because they're the ones I grew up, like watching, just coming out and whatever. But I there's one coming up where it's coming up like in like 2 movies, I believe, where I'm very passionate that it's a very underrated Scooby movie. But this one, I'm not gonna lie, like, I mean, this one definitely is not talked about a lot within the community. But I don't feel like this one's an underrated one. I don't know. It's a good one. I feel like it's just very classic Scooby Doo, but I don't feel like there's a lot going for this one, honestly, besides, the outfits and maybe the cool monster. But for nostalgic sake, I'm gonna say Smash, but it's a very, very light Smash. It's definitely not one I go back to watch a lot, but it's also not one that I wouldn't like not recommend to someone to watch. Like, if someone wanted to watch a Scooby movie, I'd recommend it, but it wouldn't be my first one to recommend. But if they just wanted a classic feeling Scooby movie with, like classic animation type style, then sure, why not? It's a fun time, but I definitely don't think I just feel like this one gets lost in the bunch very easily.
Interesting. I honestly think this is the most split we've actually all been on one movie.
Right?
Like, JayBee was like, when I was speaking to JayBee earlier, I was like, do you know what? I'm not engaging with this one. He said, you can't not say Smash for this. He was like, man, most nostalgic movie. Whereas I was like, I can't engage with this one at all. And then you're like, I'm really split. Like, I honestly feel like this is the one where we've all had like the most difference in opinions, which has been really interesting. So next week's movie, of course, is going to be Scooby Doo, Where's My Mummy? So for those of you that like to listen to these weekly, if you want to do a watch through of that in advance, ready for like chatting in the premiere and all that kind of thing, that will be coming out next Saturday. Now, before we wrap things up, I know that there was at least a little bit of Scooby news that JayBee wanted to touch on.
Big Scooby news.
Yeah, so the new movie. Now, first of all, I know that JayBee said that he wanted to start by congratulating you, Smash.
I want to congratulate Smash.
Like, the last 2 videos that you've done talking about all that kind of thing, the views have been incredible, and they're incredible videos as well. So for everyone watching, go and check those out. The link is in the description to that channel.
Check out Smash, Ashton Hardy in the description down below. Oh my gosh, like, you've literally been on fire with this. You did the speculation video, 2.8 thousand, the reaction, 2.2 thousand. Like, you've been on fire. And it's like, I would love to be the type of people that I could hype up a trailer review, but I just don't think that that's me. Unless it's about a game that I'm really passionate about or I've got something to say, that's not what I'm into. But like, your reaction video was just so good, and oh, I'm hyped. For all I don't know anything about Courage, I'm hyped.
Well, you want to know what's funny about these? Okay, this has nothing to do with anything, but so it was Sunday, I had fallen asleep, and had I fallen asleep? Was it Sunday? Yeah, I did the video on Sunday. I'm trying to think what happened Sunday. What? Okay, no, okay. So yeah, Sunday I had fallen asleep. I was took a nap, and I woke up to Instagram message being like, you basically be active, get on, are you alive, wake up, basically it was almost like a frantic hello, you need to see this RN. And anyway, so I went on, and yeah, the cover art for Straight Out of Nowhere, Scooby-Doo Meets Courage the Cowardly Dog, had leaked online. It was on a Finnish website to pre-order it in a different country, and so the cover art had leaked, and it's very messy right now, Scooby-Doo, because we thought Scooby-Doo the Sword and the Scoob was going to come out before Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. We honestly thought Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo was going to come out when this new Courage crossover movie was going to, but Happy Halloween came out before Sword and the Scoob, and then all of a sudden the Sword and the Scoob came out. And we were like, oh, there you are, because that one was rumored for a long time. And anyway, then we had the Scooby Doo and Crypto 2 movie leak, and so we were like, oh, what happened to the Courage movie? I guess, things happened or whatever. So we thought, okay, Scooby Doo and Crypto 2 is going to be the next one. And then all of a sudden, the cover art for Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog leaked, and we're like, oh, well, never mind, because the cover art's done. So I guess, that's going to be first, but it's also like technically not confirmed, Anyway, so I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry and post this cover art, like, this is crazy. I was probably like the second or third person to post about it, at least within the Scooby community that I follow. And obviously, it just started to explode, and a bunch of Courage fans obviously are super hyped for it and whatever. And I was kind of sitting there like, do I make a video on this? Do I not? I was like, it's just a cover art. Like, do I? But I also need to make a Scooby News update talking about some of the stuff with Courage, because some of the backgrounds of the movie had leaked earlier. And anyway, so I was like, you know what? We'll just do it. So the person who sent me the cover art image said, just do it. Just make a video. It doesn't have to be anything grand or anything. Just make a video, because my channel is majority Scooby Doo. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And all of a sudden, yeah, like you guys said, it just started getting so many views, and everybody's like, wait, this is real? Like, this is so cool and whatever. And then we thought the trailer wasn't going to drop until July. And so, like, Monday, again, talking with the person that sent me the cover art, was like, yeah, I don't know when the trailer's going to come, blah, blah, blah. We were kind of like, probably sometime in July and whatever. And then, so, nothing happened Monday. Whatever, cool. Okay, I have to say, though, the cover art leaked, and there was so much, all of a sudden, drama in the community, because everyone started, like, I don't want to say fighting, but I guess bickering at each other, because they're like, this is fake, that's fan art, like, it's not real, stop spreading false rumors. And I don't want to say that was necessarily directed towards me. I did have a few comments of people being like, this is so fake, it's fan-made, I can make that in a day, blah, 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 blah. And, it just, like, riled everybody up with this cover art leak. And we were all kind of like, bro, look at the cover. It matches the Sword and the Scoob, Happy Halloween, Return to Zombie Island with the style and everything. We're like, okay, yes, the title is weird, which we think that's what was throwing people off the most, because it doesn't start with, like, Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's straight out of nowhere, Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. So it is different, but everybody was like, oh, the font's really weird. There's so many different fonts in that title. The title's way too long. But anyway, there was so much controversy with this cover art. So me and that person that messaged me, we were kind of like, we want this trailer to drop just so we can feel validated that this cover art is real, because we're having so many people say that we're spreading lies, basically, of this movie and hyping people up for nothing. And anyway, so then Tuesdays I usually go to work early in the morning. I don't work for very long there, but did my thing. Then I will usually go to my parents' house and help my mom take care of my nieces and nephews. But right now, during the summer, since one of my sisters is a teacher, she's not teaching right now because it's summer, and so my mom only has one kid right now, and so I technically don't really have to go over. Like, she can do it on her own with just one. But I went over just because it's kind of what I do and whatever. And all of a sudden, that same person, again, because we talk back and forth so much, his Instagram handle is Scooby Doo. And anyway, he sent me a link, and it just said, the title and saying it was the trailer. And I mean, him and I kind of joke back and forth of oh, it leaked, ha ha ha, here's a fake link and whatever. Anyway, so he sent me that link, and I was like, I thought nothing of it. I was like, okay, ha ha ha, thanks for this. And he's like, so I messaged her, I was like, is this real, or am I clicking on that link and it's gonna Rick and roll me, basically? He was like, no, it's real. He's like, I promise I'm not lying. So, I click on the link, and I was like, okay, it is real. But I was like, I'm not home. I don't have any of my equipment to do a video. And so I literally like got up and was like, I'm so sorry, Mom. I have to go. I can come back, but I have to go. And so I zoomed home. Luckily, I wasn't too far away from my house, but I came home so fast. I didn't shower, nothing. I looked like freaking crap. And anyway, filmed this trailer reaction, got it together, put it out and everything. And, you know, everybody's obviously talking about it. And the voice actors from Scooby Doo were able to kind of talk about it now too. And but then it was funny because everybody that was like, so, oh, it's fake, blah, 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 all of a sudden went, oh, it's real, but it looks horrible. It looks like the cover's so ugly, blah, blah, blah. Like they had to feel like their voices of saying it was fake had some sort of validation. So now they just start calling it bad and everything, I felt like. And anyway, so it has been a crazy like last 3 days, and now I'm just happy it's confirmed, it's out there. We've known about this movie since at least 2019, and it actually was originally going to be a Scooby-Doo and Guess Who episode, but it evolved into a movie. But, you know, so obviously the Courage fans are super excited because it's something new of Courage after so many years, but it's kind of funny though because a lot of people got super hyped for it in the beginning, and now people are realizing that the original Courage the Cowardly Dog creator actually is not working on this movie at all. He has no involvement with it, and now like so many people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to see this anymore and stuff. So I don't know, this movie has just been so mixed, and it's just been a crazy 3 days. And anyway, I didn't mean to go off on that story, but you brought it up, and I wanted to give you behind the scenes of those freaking videos of the drama of getting them out and stuff.
No, we really do appreciate that so much, because all the times, like the last couple of episodes, we've tried to include like a mini news segment at the end, and before there was cool stuff, you know, there was the Hex Girls Funko Pops, but this is like the 1 week where there's genuinely been some type of new announcement, and it has just been so exciting. And again, I admit, when I first saw the cover art, I did think it was fake. Not necessarily because of the titles, but I just wasn't used to the modern art style. Like, I was thinking back to the Sword and the Scoob, and to me, this just seemed a bit more almost like Wallace and Gromit. At least Shaggy looked very claymation-y, and I'm like, I don't know if that's normally how things work, but again, I'm not the expert. And, okay, maybe this factors more into... I guess maybe this is like a negative aspect of things, but the second that I started believing that it was real was when I saw that you posted about it, because I know that you don't often post about rumors. So if it was like significant enough for you to talk about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this actually is looking real. And it's just weird to think about how, for all we're sat here and we've just finished talking about Aloha Scooby Doo, if all goes to plan in like 40 weeks time, like that would be the topic of a Smash or Pass. And it's just, I don't know, I just think it's going to be such a proud moment when we've done all of them up to date and there's just that playlist. Oh, like that's going to be the most satisfying thing. Like, I'd imagine myself just flicking up and down that playlist when it's all I'm weird.
Here's what I find interesting is some of these episodes are actually longer than the movies themselves.
Right, I thought that too.
Genuine, you know what?
Like, even if we were to talk about every element of the movie, it shouldn't be that much longer than the movie itself. Like, this movie, I think, was about 80 minutes, 90 minutes, and we're at just over 2 hours at this point.
Yeah, to be fair though, the movies don't have our witty banter, do they? Or our stories about diving in the barrier reef.
That's very true.
But to be fair, I did keep my verdict quite short this time, so
yeah, thanks.
I trimmed the time. I did it.
I went on too many tangents.
Oh no, it's good. Like, every time you're like, I have something to say, I'm like, okay, good. I'm gonna learn something now.
Yeah, like,
well, I hope you learn some things for the next movie, because I have a few things ready for the next movie.
This is another one that I don't think I've seen. Like, when...
No, you don't think you've seen it?
I don't think I've seen the next one. Like, you turn around and...
We watched it together.
I think I fell asleep.
Oh, no.
Ultimately, you were like, well, not so long ago, didn't you say that it was something to do with Velma? And I was like, is it? What is this?
Well, we'll get to that. I'm sure we'll get to that. So I guess before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else that anyone needs to say? I guess smASH, where can everyone find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm over on Twitter and Instagram. Those are, I believe, just at Ashton Hardy _. And then obviously here on YouTube, I'm known as smASH, but if you just search Ashton Hardy, it comes up with hopefully me. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I like that. You know, I never know what to call you to. I always say smASH, but then obviously I don't know if it's weird to call someone by an alias. So literally just casually, for some reason, I've started saying Smashton.
Okay, I like that. Do you guys know the story of my channel name, of why it's called that?
I think I when I was doing some research for 5-Star Talk, I think I went back and watched your first ever few videos.
Okay.
And I think it was because something about the Incredible Hulk.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I know we were trying to end this. I had a well, I still have a friend. We just don't talk a whole lot anymore, but I have a friend who she was like the only one that ever gave me like a nickname, because I never really had a nickname ever growing up. And then, you know, like Marvel and stuff started become popular when I was in middle school and high school, and so one day she was like, well, she started calling me smASH, and she was like, you know, I see you as, or I picture you as the Hulk, and she's like, you're just like this small innocent person, but if something riles you up, I picture you just all of a sudden going big and like strong, and all of a sudden you're ready to smash and whatever. And so she's always called me smASH, and that's where it came from.
Oh,
that's quite sweet.
So Mariah could be Black Widow.
True.
One person that can calm down the Hulk.
Comic-Con. We should, let's go to Comic-Con. Right, you know, I'm going off on a tangent, but we should go to Comic-Con.
See, JayBee's taken his name so seriously now. Like, I feel like while we're on this topic,
we're not on a topic.
We've gone to. We had to go to Starbucks before work yesterday because JayBee needed some coffee to wake him up, and they asked for his name, so I said like his normal name. He's like, why do you keep calling me that? It's JayBee. I don't like my name.
No, I genuinely.
Like, okay, we're doing this stuff.
My name is out there on this series. I think it was in the Legend of the Vampire episode. If you watch that all throughout, that hideous sounding thing is there, and I genuinely hate it. I'm gonna get it legally changed. It's literally not that I don't want people to know. I genuinely dislike it. So it's JayBee.
I was like, I can't say to a Starbucks person.
What, JayBee?
No, like whenever you're talking to your parents and they say your name, you're like, it's not that, it's JayBee, like JayBee, and physically spell it out to them.
Yeah, because it's not just like Juliet Bravo, it's Juliet Alpha Yankee
Is that
Bravo,
what you want me to say in Starbucks when they're asking for your order?
What? I mean...
Oh gosh.
JayBee would be nice.
Okay,
I will always know you as JayBee.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
this is the best. Oh my god. Okay. So I've got nothing else left to say. No more tangents to go on. Millie, do you have any tangents you want to go on?
no tangents.
Smashton, do you have any tangents?
Nope, I'm zipping my mouth. I'll save them for the next one.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Smash or Pass podcast. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee, Milly, and smASH.